The gym smelled like decades of teenage sweat, masked by industrial cleaning and cheap water. String lights sagged between basketball hoops, casting shadows that made the Sunset Ridge class of
Wow, an instant
2005
family.
to
You work
20-year
fast.
reunion
It's a long
banner
story.
look
They're
more
adorable. You
ominous
must
than
be thrilled.
celebratory. Marcus Chen stood at the center of a widening circle, 40-plus former classmates forming a human coliseum around him, and realized with sickening clarity that coming here was the worst decision he'd made since marrying Vanessa in the first place. Still in that apartment in East Riverside? Vanessa's voice carried across the gym floor with the precision of a prosecutor. She wore red, designer red, the kind that cost more than Marcus's monthly rent, and diamonds that caught the string lights like tiny accusatory fingers. How do 3 girls share one bedroom in that place? His throat closed. Every word he'd rehearsed in the car evaporated. They're happy, Vanessa. The lie came out quiet, defensive. They have everything they need. Her smile sharpened. She turned to the man beside her, Robert Sterling, tech billionaire, second husband, the reason she'd walked away from their daughters 4 years ago. His suit probably cost more than Marcus's car. Honey, didn't you say our guest suite alone is bigger than a 2-bedroom apartment in that neighborhood? Robert's expression radiated condescending sympathy. It's admirable, really. Teaching. The pause before that last word lasted a lifetime. Not everyone has the patience for that kind of work. Cell phones appeared. Someone was recording. Marcus felt heat crawl up his neck, that familiar shame that had lived in his chest since the divorce, since before the divorce, since the first time Vanessa looked at their bank account and he saw disappointment settle into her eyes like sediment. 4 hours earlier, he'd stood in front of his bathroom mirror and seen exactly what everyone here would see. The Kohl's blazer from 2022, worn at the elbows. Jeans because he couldn't afford dress pants. Shoes with a hole in the sole. Cardboard wedged inside to keep water out when it rained. 35 years old, and he looked 50. Exhaustion carved into lines around his eyes, gray threading through hair that used to be dark brown. "Daddy, you have to go!" Emma's voice had echoed from the living room, where all 3 girls bounced on the second-hand couch like it was Christmas morning. "You can't skip your reunion!" "Yeah," Sophia added, blonde curls flying. "You went to school there forever ago. You have to see your old friends." Hannah had looked at him with those devastating blue eyes, 7 years old and already carrying weight no child should bear. "Maybe you'll meet someone pretty. Someone who'll be nice to us." She'd pressed her small hand to his cheek. "You deserve that, Daddy." He'd knelt, pulled all 3 into his arms, breathing in their shampoo and crayon smell. The apartment might be cramped, 3 twin beds crammed into 1 bedroom, toys organized in plastic bins from Dollar Tree, peeling paint on the kitchen cabinets, but it was full of this. Love that didn't fit on a balance sheet. I already have 3 pretty girls, the prettiest girls in the world. I don't need anyone else. Emma had touched his face with the gravity of someone much older. "You look sad sometimes, Daddy. When you think we're not watching. We want you to be happy." That had broken something inside him. His 7-year-old daughter had been monitoring his emotional state, worrying about him when she should be worrying about which toy to play with next. Now, standing in this gym with Vanessa dismantling him piece by public piece, he understood why he'd come. Not for himself. For them. Because his father's voice lived in his head. Words spoken 20 years ago when Marcus was 15 and afraid to try out for the school play. The bravest thing a man can do is show up, even when he's scared. He'd sat in his 2008 Toyota Corolla in the parking lot for 10 minutes, watching Mercedes and Teslas arrive, delivering successful alumni in designer clothes and expensive watches. His odometer read 217,394 miles. The engine made a concerning sound every morning. The air conditioning had died 2 summers ago. But it ran, and that was enough. "Okay, Dad," he'd whispered to his reflection in the rearview mirror. "I'm showing up." The gym doors had opened. Music and laughter spilled out, the sound of people who'd made something of themselves. He'd step through into the noise and judgment, because showing up mattered more than showing off. His father had taught him that, and his father had been right about most things before the heart attack took him when Marcus was 16. Ryan Mitchell had been the first to corner him. Former quarterback, now tech entrepreneur, according to his name tag, expensive Rolex catching the light with every gesture. "Marcus Chen! Man, it's been forever. What are you up to these days?" "I teach middle school English over at Jefferson." Ryan's smile had faltered, just for a second, but Marcus caught it. "That's really noble, man. Teaching is important." The subtext screamed, but not lucrative. "I just sold my 3rd startup. 8 figures. Congratulations." Marcus meant it. He didn't begrudge anyone their success. "Thanks, man. You married? Kids?" "Divorced. 3 daughters. Triplets, actually." Ryan's face had shifted to genuine sympathy. "Triplets? Jesus, Marcus, that's rough. How do you even afford that on a teacher's salary?" The question hit like a fist to the solar plexus. Before Marcus could answer, he'd heard that voice. The one that used to promise forever. That said, "I love you" 1,000 times. That walked away without looking back. "Marcus. Oh my God, Marcus Chen." Vanessa had materialized from the crowd like a beautiful nightmare. Air kiss, expensive perfume overwhelming. She looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine, hair professionally styled, makeup perfect, that red dress probably worth more than his entire wardrobe. Next to her, Robert Sterling stood silent and commanding, the quiet menace of someone who'd never worried about money. "You look exactly the same." Her tone suggested this was an insult. "Still teaching at Jefferson, I heard?" "Yeah, still there." Her smile turned to the gathering crowd. "How sweet. Still in that little apartment in East Riverside, too, right?" People were listening now. The circle had formed without Marcus noticing, classmates drawn to drama like moths to flame. He felt himself shrinking, shoulders curving inward, the posture of defeat he'd worked so hard to avoid. "And the girls," Vanessa's voice carried to the back of the crowd. "Grace, Faith, and Hope, right?" She said their names like trying to remember strangers. "They must be what, 7 now?" "Emma, Sophia, and Hannah." He forced strength into his voice. "They're 7. They're wonderful. 3 growing girls in 1 bedroom." She addressed the audience now, not him. "I can't even imagine. Robert and I have a 7-bedroom house with a pool." Her pause let that sink in. "Those girls could have had so much more if—" She stopped, but the implication detonated in the silence. If their father had been enough, if he'd provided, if he'd been worth staying for. Robert stepped forward, playing his role perfectly. "The Corolla out there, that's yours, isn't it? The '08? Polite interest wrapped around condescension. "That's remarkable longevity." 200,000 miles, at least. Vanessa's voice turned nostalgic. "Remember when it broke down on our anniversary? That was what, 100,000 miles ago?" Marcus's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Every defense sounded like an excuse. Yes, he was poor. Yes, his daughters shared a bedroom. Yes, he drove a car that should have died years ago. But they were happy. They were loved. Didn't that matter? Apparently not. Not here, where success was measured in square footage and stock portfolios. His eyes stung. He was going to cry in front of everyone. Worse, he was going to run. The exit was 20 feet away. He could make it, drive home to his cramped apartment and his sleeping daughters, and pretend this never happened. Then a voice cut through the humiliation, warm and confident and impossibly kind. "Marcus, there you are. I've been looking everywhere for you." A woman appeared at his side like an answer to a prayer he didn't know he'd made. She linked her arm through his naturally, like she'd done it 1,000 times, and suddenly he could breathe again. She wore a teal-wrapped dress, elegant but not showy, and simple jewelry that suggested wealth without screaming it. Her presence shifted the energy of the room immediately. Confidence radiated from her like heat. She turned to Vanessa with a smile that could cut glass. "Sorry I'm late. The board meeting ran over. You know how it is." She extended her hand to Vanessa. "Elena Hart. You must be Vanessa. Marcus has told me so much about you." Vanessa's smile froze. "Elena Hart? The Elena Hart? Hart Event Solutions?" "Yes. Have we met?" "No, but I know your work." Vanessa's recovery was smooth, but Marcus caught the flash of uncertainty. "You planned the governor's inauguration last year, and the tech summit Robert attended." Robert's interest peaked visibly. "Hart Event Solutions? I've been trying to book you for our annual gala for 2 years. Your waiting list is legendary." Elena's smile remained pleasant. "It's been busy, but rewarding." Marcus stood frozen, trying to process what was happening. Elena Hart. They'd gone to Sunset Ridge together. He had vague memories of her from student council, prom committee, always surrounded by friends. But they'd never spoken. Why was she? "We've been together 6 months now." Elena said it casually, like stating the weather. Her hand on his arm tightened fractionally. A message. Play along. His eyes widened, but he kept his mouth shut. The crowd's energy shifted. People who'd been watching his humiliation with pity now looked curious, reassessing. "The girls are remarkable," Elena addressed Vanessa directly. "Emma wants piano lessons. She has such a good ear. Sophia's interested in art classes, and Hannah loves gymnastics. We just got them new bikes last month for their birthday." Vanessa's mask cracked. "How generous of you to help with someone else's children. They're Marcus's children." Elena's correction was gentle but firm. "Which means they're important to me. When you love someone, you love all of them, including their family." The words landed like a slap. Vanessa had abandoned her family. Elena's statement highlighted that abandonment without saying it explicitly. Robert attempted to regain control. "Teaching and event planning. That's quite a combination." "It is." Elena looked at Marcus, and he saw something in her eyes he couldn't identify. "Marcus builds young minds. I build experiences. Both require patience, creativity, and seeing potential others miss." Her gaze held his. "He's very good at seeing potential." His chest tightened. Who was this woman? Why was she doing this? "Let's get drinks." Elena steered him away smoothly, and the crowd parted. Vanessa's voice rose behind them, something sharp and defensive, but they were already moving toward the hallway, leaving the gym and its judgment behind. The hallway hit him with fluorescent brightness and sudden quiet. Muffled music thumped through the walls. A vending machine hummed in the corner. Elena released his arm and turned to face him. "What just happened?" His voice came out raw. "Who are you?" "Elena Hart. We went to Sunset Ridge together. Class of 2005. I know, but he shook his head, trying to make sense of it. We've been together 6 months. We barely spoke in high school. I know. She leaned against the wall, studying him with those impossibly calm eyes. But you were being humiliated in there. That woman was tearing you down in front of everyone, and someone needed to stop it. By lying? By pretending to be my girlfriend? By giving you armor, yes. He should be angry. He should be offended. Instead, he felt something dangerously close to gratitude. Why? Why would you do that for me? She was quiet for a moment. The vending machine hummed. Someone laughed in the gym. The ordinary sounds of a world that kept spinning while his had stopped. Do you remember 11th grade AP English? The subject change threw him. Yeah? You wrote a paper about Romeo and Juliet, about how the real tragedy wasn't their deaths. It was that they were brave enough to love, but the world wasn't brave enough to let them. Memory surfaced slowly. Mrs. Anderson's class, junior year. He'd stayed up until 3 in the morning finishing that essay, pouring something honest onto the page. I remember that paper, but I don't remember you being in that class. I sat 3 rows behind you. Row 4, seat 2. Her voice softened. Mrs. Anderson cried when she read it aloud. She paused. I thought it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever heard. I had a crush on you for all of junior year. The world tilted. You had a crush on me? I was too scared to talk to you. We were from different worlds. You worked at the HEB on weekends. I was student council. She looked down. My dad used to say... She stopped. My dad used to say, the bravest thing a man can do is show up, even when he's scared. The words came automatically, muscle memory from childhood. I didn't understand that until I became a father. Her eyes met his. You showed up tonight, even scared. He also said, Marcus's throat tightened, a good woman sees you when you can't see yourself. I think maybe that's what just happened. The air between them changed, charged with something he didn't understand but felt in his chest, his lungs, the base of his spine. Can I meet your daughters? She asked it quietly. If you'd let me. He should say no. This was insane. She was lying to a room full of people. He barely knew her. But standing in this hallway, looking at the woman who just saved him from complete humiliation, he found himself nodding. Okay. She smiled. Okay. He drove home through empty Austin streets, the gym and its judgment shrinking in his rearview mirror. His hands shook on the steering wheel. Adrenaline crash, probably, or delayed shock, or the simple weight of realizing how close he'd come to breaking down in public. Mrs. Garcia was asleep on his couch when he arrived, game show playing on mute. He paid her, his last 20 until Friday, and she shuffled back to her apartment next door, leaving him alone with the quiet. He checked on the girls. 3 twin beds crammed into the smaller bedroom, barely a foot of space between them. Emma sprawled across her mattress, one arm hanging off the side. Sophia clutched her stuffed rabbit, the one she'd had since she was 3. Hannah's mouth hung open slightly, that hidden dimple visible even in sleep. His daughters. His entire world condensed into 3 7-year-old bodies that breathed in synchronization, that laughed at his terrible jokes, that worried about him when they should be worrying about nothing. He sat at the kitchen table, looked around at what Vanessa had seen tonight. Worn furniture from Goodwill, peeling paint on the cabinets he kept meaning to fix, crack in the bathroom mirror that spiderwebbed across his reflection. The refrigerator hummed loud enough to wake him at night. The sink dripped. The living room carpet had a stain from when Sophia spilled grape juice 2 years ago that no amount of scrubbing could remove. But the walls were covered in the girls' artwork. Photos of happy moments, the zoo, the park, Christmas morning with presents wrapped in newspaper because he'd run out of wrapping paper. A magnet from Linda that said, "World's Best Dad." Emma's crayon drawing of their family. 4 stick figures holding hands, all smiling. Maybe Vanessa was right. The thought came unbidden. Maybe they do deserve more. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. "I meant what I said. Coffee this week? Let the girls decide if they like me. No pressure. E." He stared at the text, read it 3 times, looked at his daughter's bedroom door. This was crazy. Elena Hart, successful, beautiful, confident, wanting to meet his daughters, wanting to continue this charade or whatever it was. He should decline politely, should protect his girls from more disappointment, more abandonment, more people who left. But Emma's voice echoed in his head. "You look sad sometimes, Daddy, when you think we're not watching." And his father's voice, older and deeper. "The bravest thing a man can do is show up." He typed slowly, thumb hovering over send for a full minute before he pressed it. "Sunday, 2 p.m.? There's a coffee shop on Congress. The girls would like to meet you." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "I'll be there." He set the phone down, checked on the girls one more time, still sleeping, still safe, still his. Went to his bathroom and studied himself in the cracked mirror. "Okay, Dad," he whispered. "I'm still showing up." Sunday arrived wrapped in October sunshine and pre-coffee shop panic. The girls had woken up at 6, too excited to sleep, asking questions at machine gun pace while Marcus attempted to make pancakes without burning them. "Is she pretty?" Hannah asked for the 5th time. "Very pretty." "Is she nice?" Sophia wanted to know. "She seems nice, but you 3 will decide that." Emma, always the protector, always the oldest, even though they were technically the same age, looked at him seriously. "We want you to have a friend, Daddy. You need friends." Friends. That's what Elena had called herself. Not girlfriend, not partner, not anything that carried weight or expectation. Just a friend who'd lied convincingly to save him from public humiliation. Summer Moon Coffee on Congress was packed with Sunday afternoon families. Marcus spotted a corner table and claimed it before someone else could. The girls bounced in their seats, blonde curls identical, making the distinctive Chen triplet chaos that made people smile. Then Elena walked in. She wore jeans and a sweater, hair in a ponytail, no makeup that Marcus could see. Approachable, non-threatening, the opposite of her reunion appearance. She spotted them and smiled, genuine warmth that reached her eyes. And Marcus's chest did something complicated. She slid into the booth. "Hi, you must be Emma, Sophia, and Hannah. I've heard so much about you." "You're the lady from Daddy's reunion." Emma's statement carried implied questions. "I am. I'm Elena. It's very nice to meet you." "You're very pretty." Sophia's observation landed with the bluntness of childhood. "Thank you. You're all very pretty, too." "We're identical." Hannah leaned forward, testing. "But Daddy can always tell us apart. Can you tell us apart?" Elena studied them thoughtfully, didn't condescend, didn't dismiss, treated the question like it mattered. "Not yet, but I'd like to learn. Will you teach me?" Something in Marcus's chest unlocked. The girls relaxed incrementally, shoulders dropping, smiles emerging. She'd passed the first test. Over hot chocolates and coffee, Elena asked questions about school, favorite subjects, what they wanted to be when they grew up. She listened, actually listened, not the performative attention adults sometimes gave children. When Sophia talked about wanting to be a vet, Elena asked about her favorite animals. When Hannah mentioned her dream of being a princess scientist, Elena didn't laugh, just nodded and said, "That's allowed. You can be anything you want." An hour passed, then another. Marcus watched his daughters fall for this woman who'd appeared out of nowhere, who'd lied for him, who treated his children like people worth knowing. Eventually, the girls needed the bathroom. All three went together. They did everything together, leaving Marcus and Elena alone at the table. "They're wonderful," she said quietly. "Thank you." "I mean it. You've done an incredible job." The compliment landed heavier than she probably intended. 4 years of doubt, of wondering if he was enough, if they needed more than he could give. And here was someone who saw what he'd built and called it wonderful. They walked to the parking lot together. The girls raced ahead to the small playground area, burning off sugar and excitement. Austin sunshine painted everything gold. October in Texas, perfect temperature, perfect light, perfect moment. So, he kept his eyes on his daughters, safer than looking at her. "What is this? Are we still pretending, or—" "I don't know." She stopped walking, forced him to look at her. "I didn't plan past Friday night. But I like talking to you. I liked watching you with your daughters just now. I haven't thought about dating in 4 years. The admission came out rough. Haven't had time. Haven't wanted to bring someone into their lives who might leave. He watched Emma push Hannah on the swing. Vanessa left when they were 3. Just walked away. Emma asked me 6 months ago why they don't have a mommy. I didn't know what to say. What did you say? That they had one, but she chose a different life. That some people aren't ready to be parents. His throat closed. I can't do that to them again. Elena was quiet for a long moment. The girls' laughter carried across the parking lot. A car drove past, the ordinary world continuing around them while they stood suspended in this conversation that felt too important to rush. "I understand that." Her voice held something he couldn't identify. "But maybe I'd like to see where this goes. If you're interested." If you're interested. Like she wasn't impossibly out of his league. Like a successful businesswoman might actually want to date a broke teacher with 3 kids and a car held together by hope and duct tape. "Let me earn their trust." She met his eyes. "And yours." He should say no. Should protect himself, protect his daughters, protect the fragile stability they'd built. But standing in this parking lot with Austin's sunshine warming his shoulders, watching this woman who'd appeared like something out of a dream, he found himself nodding. Okay. Her smile could have powered the city grid. 4 years earlier, Marcus had sat in a downtown attorney's office while his marriage died in fluorescent lighting and legalese. "My client is requesting full custody." Vanessa's lawyer had delivered it without emotion. "Mrs. Chen believes the children would be better served in her care." He'd looked at Vanessa across that conference table, the woman he'd met in college, married in a small ceremony, built a life with. "You want custody?" She couldn't meet his eyes. "I think it's best." 3 weeks later, his phone rang at 11 p.m. He was grading papers at their kitchen table. 3-year-old triplets finally asleep after 2 hours of bedtime negotiations. Vanessa's voice came through the speaker, cold and final. "I can't do this, Marcus. 3 kids? It's too much. You keep them. Vanessa, they're our daughters. I'm done. Robert's offered me something better and I'm taking it. My lawyer will send papers. You can have full custody. I'm not paying child support. I'm not doing visitation. I'm out. They're 3 years old. They need their mother. They need someone who wants to be a mother. That's not me. It never was. The line went dead. He'd sat there for an hour, phone in hand, trying to understand how someone walked away from their children, trying to figure out how to tell 3 toddlers that mommy wasn't coming back. That first night alone with them had been chaos. Emma crying for mommy, Sophia refusing to sleep, Hannah screaming every time he left her line of sight. He had no idea how to comfort them, no idea what he was doing, no idea how to be both parents at once. "Where's mommy?" Emma had sobbed against his chest. He'd held all 3, fighting his own tears. "Mommy had to go away, sweetie. But Daddy's here. Daddy's always going to be here." It was the only promise he knew how to keep. The first year had been brutal. Daycare costs ate his entire salary. He worked summer school for an extra $2,000, learned to cook cheap meals that would stretch for days, spaghetti, rice and beans, pancakes for dinner when they ran out of everything else. He'd learned to braid hair from YouTube videos at midnight, laundry spinning in the apartment building's basement while he practiced on Emma's hair. She'd sat patient and trusting while he fumbled with elastics and bobby pins, making braids that looked like disasters, but she wore them proudly anyway. His car had broken down in the Walmart parking lot one sweltering July afternoon. The repair estimate? $800. He had $200 in his account. He'd sat in the driver's seat and cried while the girls watched from the back, Emma asking why Daddy was sad, and he'd lied and said he wasn't, just trying to figure something out. But slowly, incredibly, he'd discovered he was good at this. Being a father. The girls were happy. They didn't care about the apartment being small, or the furniture being second-hand, or dinner coming from Dollar Tree. They cared that Daddy read stories every night, that he showed up to every school event, that he knew Emma liked her sandwiches without crust, that Sophia was allergic to strawberries, that Hannah only ate sandwiches cut diagonally. By year 4, they had a rhythm, poor but stable, struggling but managing. Then, 6 months ago, Emma had asked the question that changed everything. "Daddy, why don't we have a mommy?" He'd knelt down, eye level. "You did have a mommy, but she decided she needed to live a different life." "Other kids have mommies and daddies. We only have you. Is that not enough?" "You tell me. Are you happy?" She'd thrown her arms around him. "You're the best daddy in the world. But sometimes I wish you had someone to help you. You look so tired." She'd been watching him struggle, noticing his exhaustion, worrying about him when she should be worrying about nothing. Maybe it was time to try. Not for himself, for them. 3 months passed. November turned to December, turned to January. Austin weather shifted from scorching to pleasant to almost cold. Elena became part of their lives so naturally Marcus barely noticed the transition. She showed up at Hannah's soccer games with snacks for the whole team, cheering louder than any other parent. She helped with homework while baking cookies, turning measuring cups into fraction lessons that made Sophia finally understand why math mattered. She appeared at the Central Market where Marcus shopped, cart full of groceries she'd bought too much of, leaving them at his door with a note that said simply, "Thought you might need these." She came to the school Christmas program, sat next to Marcus in the auditorium, held his hand when the girls sang Jingle Bells, off-key and proud. She helped them make homemade Christmas cards, gluing glitter everywhere, laughing when Emma dumped an entire bottle on one card and declared it fancy. The apartment filled with her presence, shoes by the door, coffee mug in the sink, laughter that made the cramped space feel bigger. One evening in early January, Marcus cooked spaghetti while Elena helped the girls with craft projects at the kitchen table. His phone had dinged. Paycheck notification. He'd opened it, watched the blood drain from his face. Insufficient funds. Transaction reversed. His paycheck had bounced. The phone rang immediately. Landlord. Rent was due 3 days ago. If Marcus couldn't pay by end of week, eviction proceedings would begin. He'd set the phone down carefully, stared at the pasta water boiling, thought about 3 daughters and 1 bedroom and nowhere else to go. Thought about custody battles and judges and what Vanessa's lawyer could do with evidence of homelessness. You don't have to keep doing this. The words came out strangled. Elena looked up from her glitter. Doing what? Showing up, helping, the groceries. He turned from the stove. I saw the receipt in the bag last week. You spent $200. I was at the store. Thought you might need things. Elena. He gripped the counter. I don't want to be a charity case. She stood, crossed to him, took his hands. You're not. You're someone I care about. Her voice carried weight. Let me help. Later that night, after the girls were asleep, they sat on his worn couch with cheap wine. String lights Marcus had hung for Christmas still glowed above them. He'd meant to take them down, but the girls liked them, so they stayed. Why are you really here? He asked it quietly. You could date anyone. Rich men, successful men. I don't want rich men. Why me? She was quiet for a long time. The refrigerator hummed. A car passed outside. The world kept turning because 18 years ago you wrote something that showed me who you were. A high school paper? That paper showed me someone who understood love wasn't about deserving it. It was about being brave enough to accept it. She set her wine down. I wanted to know that person. And now that I do, her voice dropped. I'm here because I'm falling in love with you. The wine glass slipped in his hand. He caught it before it fell. You don't have to say it back. She continued before he could speak. I know this is complicated. I know you're scared. But I needed you to know I'm not here out of pity. I'm terrified. The admission tore out of him. Terrified of screwing this up. Of you realizing what being with me really means. The struggle, the stress, the poverty. Marcus. She made him look at her. I see what your life is like. I'm not leaving. His hands shook. 4 years of being alone, of being everything to everyone, of carrying every burden himself. And here was someone offering to share the weight. I'm falling in love with you too. His voice cracked. I'm so scared. But I'm falling. She kissed him then, gentle, certain, full of promise. From the hallway came 3 synchronized voices. They're kissing! Marcus and Elena pulled apart, laughing. 3 pajama-clad girls rushed in, throwing themselves onto the couch. Toy pieces from the dollhouse he'd been assembling scattered. Everyone laughed. Were you 3 supposed to be asleep? We were thirsty! And we heard talking. Hannah looked at Elena seriously. Does this mean you're staying forever? Elena's answer came carefully, honestly. Let's start with right now and see where it goes. Is that okay? Hannah thought about it, nodded. That's okay. Right now is good. They all piled together on the worn couch, 3 blonde girls, 1 exhausted father, 1 woman who'd appeared like an answer to prayers he'd been too scared to speak. String lights glowed above them. Outside, Austin slept. Inside, something fragile and precious was being built. 6 months after the reunion, Marcus stood in his kitchen making pancakes for the girls' 8th birthday breakfast. The recipe was perfect now. 4 years of practice had taught him exactly how much batter made them fluffy without being raw in the middle. His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. "Marcus, it's Vanessa." The spatula froze mid-flip. 4 years of silence, and her voice still had the power to stop his world. "Vanessa?" "I've been thinking about the girls. I made a mistake. I want to see them." Pancake batter dripped onto the stove, started smoking. He set the bowl down carefully, like any sudden movement might detonate something. "What do you want?" "I want to be part of their lives. I've been in therapy. I've worked through things." Her voice carried practiced emotion. "I'm their mother, Marcus. I have rights." "You gave up your rights. You signed papers 4 years ago." "I was in a bad place. Those girls deserve to know their mother. They have everything they need." Her voice turned sharp. "Do they? Living in poverty with a single father? I saw how you were dressed at the reunion, Marcus. Our daughters deserve better. We're not rich, but they're happy. I can give them more. Private schools, opportunities." She paused. "My lawyer says I can petition for partial custody." The world tilted. "You abandoned them." "I'm their biological mother. I have legal standing." Her voice went cold, professional, final. "Figure it out, Marcus. My lawyer will contact you." The line went dead. "Daddy?" Emma stood in the doorway in her birthday pajamas. "The pancakes are burning." Smoke poured from the griddle. The alarm started beeping. Marcus stood frozen, phone in hand, watching his world collapse for the 2nd time. The smoke alarm shrieked. Marcus's hand moved on autopilot, grabbed the pan, dumped it in the sink, twisted the faucet. Steam hissed up in a cloud that smelled like failure and burnt batter. Emma stood in the doorway watching him with those careful eyes, the ones that said she understood more than an 8-year-old should. "It's okay, Daddy. We can have cereal." He pulled her into a hug, breathing hard, phone still clutched in his other hand. Vanessa's voice echoed in his skull. "My lawyer will contact you." 4 years of peace, of building something stable from nothing, and she was going to tear it all down because she'd seen him happy at a reunion. Because she couldn't stand that he'd moved on. An hour later, the girls were at Mrs. Garcia's for their birthday playdate, cake and presents with her grandkids, squealing laughter that drifted through the thin walls. Elena arrived to find Marcus sitting at the kitchen table, staring at his laptop screen. Legal notice email. Already sent. Already real. She crossed to the sink without a word, started scrubbing the burned pan. He watched her hands work, capable, certain, the same hands that had held his daughters while teaching them fractions, that had threaded through his own while watching Christmas programs, that were choosing to stay when leaving would be so much easier. "I can't afford a lawyer." His voice came out hollow. "I can barely afford rent. How am I supposed to fight someone married to a billionaire?" "You're not fighting alone." She didn't look up from the pan. "Elena, this isn't your—" The pan hit the sink with a clang. She turned, soapy hands dripping. "Stop. Those girls are part of my life now, too. I'm not letting anyone take them from you. I can't ask you to pay for a lawyer. This could cost tens of thousands. You're not asking. She crossed to him, gripped his shoulders. I'm insisting. I'll help. I'll pay for the lawyer. I'll testify. I'll do whatever it takes. Why? The question broke. Why would you do this? Because 6 months ago, you were being humiliated and I couldn't stand by. Her voice turned fierce. I'm still not standing by. I'm standing with you. He pulled her down, buried his face in her shoulder, and let himself break for exactly 30 seconds. Then he pulled it together because that's what fathers did. They broke in private and rebuilt before anyone noticed. The family law office occupied the 15th floor of a glass tower downtown. Too expensive. Too polished. Diana Foster's credentials covered an entire wall. Stanford Law, family court specialist, 87% success rate in custody cases. She wore a suit that probably cost more than Marcus's monthly salary and shook his hand with the grip of someone who'd won more battles than she'd lost. Across the conference table sat Vanessa and Robert, and their lawyer. Charles Whitmore looked like he'd been cast for the role. Silver hair, expensive suit, the quiet menace of someone who billed $800 an hour and earned every penny. He had a leather portfolio that probably cost more than Marcus's car, and a smile that never reached his eyes. The mediator, tired, overworked, already defeated, explained the situation. Vanessa petitioning for partial custody. Supervised visits initially. Gradual integration into the girls' lives. Whitmore opened with precision. My client has undergone extensive therapy for postpartum depression that led to her difficult decision 4 years ago. She's now financially stable, has a suitable home, and is ready to be a mother. Diana Foster didn't miss a beat. Your client didn't have postpartum depression. She had a billionaire proposal. She abandoned 3 3-year-old children and signed away all parental rights. She hasn't sent a birthday card in 4 years. Marcus couldn't stay silent. You don't want them. You want to win. Vanessa's practiced hurt was Oscar-worthy. I saw you raising my daughters in poverty, our daughters, and they're happy. She turned to the mediator, tears threatening. Real ones this time, or she'd gotten better at faking. 3 girls sharing 1 bedroom in East Riverside, the most dangerous neighborhood in Austin. No college funds. A father who works 60 hours a week and still can't make ends meet. The mediator shuffled papers, exhaustion in every line of his body. We're clearly not reaching agreement. This will proceed to formal custody hearing. Whitmore gathered his leather portfolio. We'll see you in court, Mr. Chen. Marcus left the building feeling like he'd been hollowed out. Elena's hand in his was the only thing keeping him from floating away entirely. That evening, he came home to find his kitchen transformed into a disaster zone. Flour everywhere, on the counters, the floor, Elena's hair. All 3 girls covered in chocolate chips and laughter, mixing bowl between them like a science experiment gone beautifully wrong. Daddy! They shouted in unison. We're making cookies for you! He stood in the doorway, suit jacket still on, tie loosened, and felt something crack open in his chest. This chaos, this joy, this love that didn't fit in bank accounts or square footage. This was what Vanessa would never understand. I can see that, and apparently the floor, the walls, and Elena. Elena turned, flower in her hair, smile incandescent. They're very enthusiastic bakers. Try one. Hannah thrust a misshapen cookie at him. We made them ourselves. He bit into pure sugar and love and imperfection. This is the best cookie I've ever had. Really? Sophia's face lit up. Really, because you made it. He pulled all 3 into a hug, flour transferring to his suit. He didn't care. Let Vanessa have her 7-bedroom mansion. He had this. "Thank you," he said to Elena over their heads. She understood. "Always." That night, after the girls were asleep, Elena folded their laundry while Marcus changed out of his suit. Domestic intimacy in the small bedroom they pretended they didn't share most nights now. She worked methodically, matching socks, folding tiny shirts, organizing by child with the precision she brought to everything. Jessica called today, my business partner. He paused, half unbuttoned shirt. What did she say? That I'm in too deep. That fighting a billionaire could cost me corporate clients. That I should think about my business. His stomach dropped. Is she right? Robert Sterling called me 3 weeks ago. She kept folding, didn't look up. Offered me a $200,000 contract for his annual gala if I'd reconsider my involvement with you. The room tilted. What? I told him I'm not for sale. She met his eyes finally. Neither are you. Neither is our family. That contract could have changed everything for your business. It would have cost me everything that matters. She set down Sophia's jeans. So I hired a private investigator instead, to find dirt on them. Elena, if they want to fight dirty, we'll fight dirty. Her voice carried steel he'd never heard before. I'm not losing you. I'm not losing those girls. Whatever it takes. He crossed to her, stopped her hands, pulled her close. She melted into him, and for a moment they just stood there. Two people choosing each other in a world that made that choice as hard as possible. You're not a stranger, he whispered into her hair. You're family. Then let me fight for our family. The custody hearing was scheduled for June, 2 months away. 2 months of waiting, of watching his daughters laugh and play and live their lives, while he carried the secret terror that it could all be taken away. Diana Foster prepared them methodically. School records showing the girls thriving, teacher testimonies, neighbor statements, Marcus's mother flying in from Georgetown to testify, building a case from ordinary proof of extraordinary love. But Vanessa had money. Money bought better lawyers, better expert witnesses, better everything. The courtroom smelled like furniture polish and institutional judgment. Travis County Family Court, downtown Austin. Judge Margaret Hamilton presiding. 50s, sharp eyes, reputation for not tolerating bullshit from anyone, regardless of their bank account. The gallery was packed. Marcus's former students filled 3 rows, showing up for the teacher who'd shown up for them. Neighbors, Principal Davidson, Mrs. Garcia in her Sunday best on Vanessa's side. Society friends in designer clothes, looking like they'd wandered into the wrong venue and couldn't find the exit. Whitmore opened with surgical precision. Poverty porn disguised as concern. Photos of Marcus's apartment blown up on screens, the cramped bedroom, the worn furniture, the peeling paint. Salary records, neighborhood crime statistics, everything packaged to say, these children deserve better. Then Vanessa took the stand. She dressed carefully, navy Chanel, minimal jewelry, hair pulled back to look maternal instead of glamorous. Whitmore walked her through 4 years of regret and growth, the therapy she'd undergone, the postpartum depression that she now understood had clouded her judgment. Mrs. Sterling, can you tell the court why you made the decision you did 4 years ago? She dabbed her eyes. Real tears or excellent acting? Marcus couldn't tell anymore. I was drowning. Postpartum depression is real. And I didn't get help. I made a terrible mistake walking away from my daughters. But I've done the work now. 2 years of therapy. I'm ready to be their mother. Diana Foster's cross-examination was scalpel sharp. Mrs. Sterling, you mentioned postpartum depression. Do you have medical records? Therapy notes from 2021? I didn't seek treatment then. I was ashamed. But you married Mr. Robert Sterling 3 months after abandoning your children. That's remarkably fast recovery. Objection, argumentative. Sustained. Move on, Ms. Foster. Robert took the stand next, testified about resources they could provide, private schools, college funds, opportunities, everything money could buy delivered in his condescending, nice guy tone that made wealth sound like virtue. The morning session ended with Vanessa's case looking polished and practiced and completely heartless. Marcus barely tasted lunch. Elena held his hand under the table at a diner 2 blocks from the courthouse. Diana Foster reviewed afternoon strategy. But his mind kept circling back to one question. What if money won? What if judges decided square footage mattered more than showing up? The afternoon session opened with Marcus's defense. Principal Davidson testified first. 15 years in education, never seen a more devoted parent. Every conference, every concert, every game. Last year, Marcus volunteered for all 3 field trips, so each daughter got individual time with him. Mrs. Garcia came next. Elderly neighbor in a floral dress, hands shaking slightly, but voice steady. I've lived next to Marcus for 4 years. Those girls are loved. They run home from the bus stop because they can't wait to see their daddy. That's not poverty. That's richness. Linda Chen took the stand, Marcus's mother, still beautiful at 67, still carrying the strength that had raised him after his father died. My son learned to be a father by watching his father. When my husband died, Marcus was 16. He stepped up, helped raise his younger sister. He knows what real love looks like. Then the school counselor. She looked nervous, young, probably her first time testifying. Diana Foster walked her through routine questions about the girl's academic performance, social development, emotional health. All positive, all boring. Then the bomb dropped. 3 weeks ago, I was approached by Mr. Sterling's assistant. They offered my supervisor $10,000 to file a report questioning Mr. Chen's fitness as a parent. My supervisor refused. I'm here to testify the offer was made. The courtroom erupted. Gasps, whispers, one of Marcus's students shouting, "What the hell?" before Principal Davidson shushed them. Judge Hamilton's gavel cracked like thunder. Order! Mr. Sterling, is this true? Robert's face had gone pale. Whitmore scrambled through papers, buying time. That was a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? Judge Hamilton's tone could freeze lava. Attempting to bribe a school official to fabricate evidence is a misunderstanding? Your Honor, if I may, you may sit down, Mr. Whitmore. She made notes, face carved from granite. Continue, Ms. Foster. Diana Foster stood. The defense calls Elena Hart. Elena walked to the witness stand in a navy suit that struck perfect balance, professional but not ostentatious, successful but not threatening. She met Marcus's eyes for 1 second before sitting down, and he saw everything in that glance. I've got you. We've got this. Ms. Hart, how long have you known the Chen family? 8 months, since their high school reunion in October. And in that time, what have you observed about Mr. Chen as a father? Elena pulled out a small leather journal. Marcus had seen it before, thought it was for work. She opened it, and his breath caught. I started keeping notes. Not for court, just for myself. To remember. Her voice stayed steady. November 12th. Marcus woke at 5 a.m. to make 3 different lunches because each daughter likes different things. Emma won't eat crust. Sophia's allergic to strawberries. Hannah only eats sandwiches cut diagonally. Whitmore stood. Objection. Miss Hart has only known these children 8 months. That's hardly... Elena interrupted, looking directly at Judge Hamilton. You're right. I've only known them 8 months. But I know what love looks like. I know what showing up looks like. She flipped pages. December 3rd. Marcus worked a double shift to afford Christmas presents, then stayed up until 2 a.m. assembling toys. December 24th. He made Christmas special with Dollar Tree decorations and homemade cookies because that's what he could afford. Her voice strengthened. January 15th. Hannah had nightmares. Marcus slept on the floor of their room for a week until she felt safe. February 2nd. He learned to French braid from YouTube so Sophia could have the hairstyle she wanted for school pictures. Marcus's vision blurred. She'd been documenting everything. Every moment he thought went unnoticed. Every small act of love he'd dismissed as just what fathers did. She'd seen it all and written it down. March 3rd. Emma's class did a writing assignment about heroes. She wrote about her dad. Said he was her hero because he never gives up even when things are hard. Elena's voice cracked. March 18th. Marcus missed a doctor's appointment because he was volunteering at the school science fair. Not for recognition, just because his daughters asked him to be there. And what do you see when you look at this family? Diana Foster asked quietly. I see a man who's not wealthy, but he's rich in every way that matters. He's not perfect, but he's present. Elena looked at Marcus, tears tracking down her face. Those girls don't know they're poor. They know they're loved. And that's worth more than 7 bedrooms and a pool. The gallery was silent. One of Marcus's students was crying. Mrs. Garcia dabbed her eyes with a handkerchief. Even the court reporter had stopped typing. Marcus sat with tears streaming down his face. The second time in his life he'd cried in front of people, and he didn't care. This woman had seen him, actually seen him, when the world looked through him or past him or down on him. Whitmore tried to recover on cross-examination, but there was nowhere to go. Elena had documented months of devoted parenting with the precision she brought to corporate events. Every question he asked, she had a dated entry ready. No further questions, Your Honor. Judge Hamilton called for recess. Marcus stumbled to the bathroom, splashed water on his face, tried to pull himself together. Diana Foster found him there. That was good, really good. But don't celebrate yet. Hamilton is tough. She'll deliberate carefully. What are our chances? Better than they were 2 hours ago. She squeezed his shoulder. The bribery attempt hurt them badly, and Elena's testimony... She shook her head. I've been doing this 20 years. I've never seen anything like that. They returned to the courtroom. Judge Hamilton sat at her bench reviewing notes. The gallery fell silent. This was it. The moment that would determine everything. I've reviewed all evidence and testimonies. Her voice carried across the room with absolute authority. Mrs. Sterling, I appreciate you've undergone therapy and are financially stable. However, you voluntarily terminated your parental rights 4 years ago. You haven't contacted these children, not a birthday card, not a phone call, in 4 years. She turned her attention to Robert. The attempted bribery of a school official is deeply troubling and speaks to character. The court finds no evidence that Mr. Chen's current situation causes harm to the children. Marcus's heart hammered. Elena gripped his hand so tight it hurt. Mr. Chen, you have been these girls' sole parent. School records show they're thriving academically, socially, and emotionally. Witnesses testify to their happiness and security. Judge Hamilton raised her gavel. I am denying the petition for custody modification. Mr. Chen remains the sole custodial parent. Mrs. Sterling, if you genuinely wish a relationship with your daughters, I suggest you start slowly, with letters. But I will not force these children into a relationship they've lived without. The gavel fell. Marcus's legs went weak. Elena caught him, held him up as he sobbed into her shoulder. Relief and gratitude and 4 years of terror finally releasing. The gallery erupted in applause. Judge Hamilton didn't even try to quiet them. They're safe, he whispered against Elena's neck. Our girls are safe. She held him tighter. I know. Outside the courthouse, Austin June heat hit like a physical wall. Marcus, Elena, and Linda descended the steps into brutal sunshine. Freedom. Victory. The future opening up like a door he'd thought was locked forever. This isn't over, Marcus. Vanessa blocked their path, Robert trailing behind her. Her composure had cracked, makeup smudged, hands shaking, the polish finally worn through to whatever lay beneath. Yes, it is. You made your choice 4 years ago, Vanessa. I'm their mother. No. His voice came out quiet but absolute. You were their mother. I'm their father. I was there when they were sick, when they had nightmares, when they learned to ride bikes, when they needed someone. He paused. Where were you? She had no answer. If you really care about them, if this isn't just about winning, write them letters. Tell them about yourself. Let them decide if they want to know you. But don't force this. Vanessa, let's go. Robert's hand on her shoulder, steering her away. They descended to a waiting Mercedes. Marcus watched them drive away and felt something he hadn't expected. Pity. She'd chosen money over love and would spend the rest of her life knowing exactly what she'd lost. You okay? Elena asked. My dad used to say, winning with grace is harder than winning with anger. I think I finally understand what he meant. They drove home. The girls were waiting with Mrs. Garcia. She'd kept them busy all day, shielding them from courtroom drama they were too young to carry. Marcus walked in and was immediately tackled by 3 blonde tornadoes. Did you win? Emma demanded. We won. Does that mean we get to stay with you? Sophia's voice was small. He knelt down, pulled them all close. You get to stay with me forever. Nobody's taking you anywhere. Hannah looked at Elena. And you're staying too, right? If you'll have me. 3 unanimous nods. That night, after the girls finally crashed from excitement and sugar and relief, Elena and Marcus sat in his backyard, small patch of concrete and dying grass that passed for outdoor space in East Riverside. Stars visible through Austin light pollution, if you looked hard enough. October, Elena said into the quiet. 1 year since the reunion. Feels like longer. Good longer or bad longer? He turned to her. Elena Hart. Will you marry me? She froze. What? I don't have a ring. I don't have money for a ring. But I have this. He took her hands. I have 3 daughters who love you. I have a life that's messy and broke and not what you deserve. But I love you. And I hope, you love us back. Yes. She was crying and laughing simultaneously. Yes, yes, yes. You ridiculous man. Of course I'll marry you. Even with the broke part? The messy part? Especially with those parts. She kissed him. Those are my favorite parts. From the window came 3 familiar voices. They're kissing again! They broke apart, laughing. The girls pressed against the glass, faces illuminated by kitchen light, joy radiating from every fiber. We should probably tell them, Elena said. They probably already know. Probably. She stood, pulled him up. But let's tell them anyway. They walked inside together, into warmth and light and family, into the life they'd built from a moment of humiliation and the lie that became truth, into right now, which was all anyone ever really had. April in Austin meant perfect wedding weather, mid-70s, 0 chance of rain, bluebonnets blooming with impossible color. The Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center Chapel held 30 guests maximum. They'd invited 28. Linda Chen in the front row dabbing her eyes. Jessica Wade, Elena's business partner, who'd worried and warned, but showed up anyway. Principal Davidson. Mrs. Garcia in her Sunday best. Former students who'd become friends. The people who mattered. Emma, Sophia, and Hannah wore matching lavender dresses and couldn't stop giggling. They'd practiced walking down the aisle 17 times, but Marcus knew they'd still run it. That was fine. Everything about this day was perfect in its imperfection. Elena walked down the aisle alone, no father to give her away because she was giving herself, which was the whole point. Simple white dress, wildflowers woven into her hair, confidence in every step. She'd built a business from nothing. She'd fought a billionaire and won. She'd chosen love over money. Walking down an aisle was easy compared to that. The officiant began. Marcus barely heard the words. He was looking at Elena, at his daughters in the front row practically vibrating with excitement, at the life they were about to make official. Marcus, your vows. He'd written them at midnight 2 weeks ago, sitting at his kitchen table with Elena asleep in his bed. 18 months ago, you saved me in a moment when I felt small and worthless. You reminded me that worth isn't measured in dollars or job titles or zip codes. He looked at his daughters. You've loved my daughters like they're your own. You've shown up every single day. You fought for us when we couldn't fight for ourselves. His voice steadied. I promise to love you fiercely, to support your dreams the way you've supported mine, to be your partner in all things, and to never let you forget how incredible you are. Elena, your vows. She smiled through tears. Marcus, 18 years ago I fell for a boy who wrote about love with such beauty, I never forgot it. He wrote that the real tragedy of Romeo and Juliet wasn't their deaths. It was that they were brave enough to love, but the world wasn't brave enough to let them. Marcus's vision blurred. You're the bravest person I know. You showed up for your daughters when their mother walked away. You showed up at that reunion even though you were scared. You showed up for me when I needed someone real. Her voice strengthened. I promise to stand beside you, to love your daughters as my own, to build a life that's rich in all the ways that matter, and to stay. Always. I promise to stay. He was crying openly now, 3rd time in public, and he'd stopped caring somewhere around the custody hearing. Crying didn't make you weak. Pretending you didn't hurt did. By the power vested in me, they're married! All three girls shouted in perfect synchronization. Laughter rippled through the chapel. The officiant gave up. "I guess they are. You may kiss your bride." He did. She tasted like salt and joy and promises kept. The reception was outdoors under string lights strung between live oak trees. Former students gave speeches about how Mr. Chen had changed their lives, had seen potential in them when nobody else did. Principal Davidson toasted, "The best teacher I've ever worked with." Jessica Wade warned Elena she was stuck with this family now. No backsies. Then the girls took the microphone. Emma read first, voice clear and serious. "Daddy was sad after our first mommy left. We didn't understand why then. We were only 3. Sophia picked up the next card. "But then Elena came to Daddy's reunion, and she made him smile again. Then she made us smile too." Hannah finished. "Today we're not just getting a new mom, we're making our family official. And that's the best thing ever." Emma looked at Elena directly. "Thank you for seeing our daddy when he couldn't see himself. Thank you for loving us, even though you didn't have to," Sophia added. "Thank you for staying," Hannah said simply. "We love you!" all three shouted together. The garden erupted in applause. Elena was sobbing. Marcus was sobbing. Linda Chen had gone through 3 tissues. Even Jessica looked misty. Then a FedEx courier appeared, weaving through tables with a large envelope. "Marcus Chen, I have a delivery." Marcus's stomach dropped. Who sent FedEx to a wedding reception? He took the envelope, saw the return address, Vanessa Sterling. His hands shook opening it. Inside, a check for $50,000 and a letter on expensive stationery. "Marcus, I won't ask for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I owe you an apology. At the reunion, I tried to humiliate you. I wanted everyone to see I'd won by leaving you. But watching you with Elena over the past year, I realized I didn't win anything. I lost everything. I lost 3 daughters who will never know me, who have a mother now, Elena, who loves them the way I never could. The enclosed check is 4 years of child support I never paid. It's not enough. It will never be enough. I'm not asking for a relationship with the girls. I've realized that ship has sailed. But I wanted you to know you were right about everything. Be happy, Marcus. You deserve it. Vanessa." Elena read it over his shoulder. "What are you going to do?" He folded the letter, tucked it back in the envelope with the check. "Cash it, put it in their college fund, and move on." "You're not angry?" "I was, for a long time." He looked across the garden at their guests, at the life they'd built. "But now, I'm just grateful. She left, and that made room for you." Elena kissed his temple. "Best thing she ever did for all of us." They walked back to the reception hand in hand, leaving Vanessa's apology in the past, where it belonged. 3 months later, they stood in an empty living room in Round Rock. 4 bedrooms, actual backyard, neighborhood where kids rode bikes on sidewalks without parental escorts. The mortgage made Marcus's stomach hurt every time he thought about it, but Elena had been right. With both incomes, it was manageable. Barely, but manageable. The girls raced through empty rooms claiming bedrooms, voices echoing off bare walls. Marcus and Elena carried boxes from the U-Haul, assembling furniture, hanging pictures, building a home from possibility and sweat equity. First family dinner happened on the kitchen floor because they hadn't assembled the table yet. Pizza from boxes, paper plates, laughter echoing off walls that would learn to expect it. That evening, Marcus stood in the backyard watching sunset paint the sky. Grass needed mowing, fence needed repair, but it was theirs. Actually, legally, officially theirs. Elena found him there, wrapped her arms around him from behind. Happy? Terrified. Of what? This feels too good. Like it's going to disappear. Like I'm going to wake up in that apartment in East Riverside, and this will all have been a dream. She turned him to face her. It's not disappearing. This is real. This is ours. How do I believe that? Because I'm here. Because I chose this life. I choose it every day. Her voice turned fierce. Stop waiting for me to realize I made a mistake. I didn't make a mistake. I found my family. Something shifted in his chest. Something that had been clenched tight for 4 years, maybe longer. My dad used to say, a good woman sees you when you can't see yourself. What do you see now? He looked at the house, their house, at the girls visible through kitchen windows, at Elena's face backlit by fading sunlight. I see I was always enough. I just needed someone brave enough to show me. She kissed him. The girls started knocking on the window, making faces, ruining the moment in the best possible way. Come on, Elena said, pulling him toward the house. Your daughters want to show you their rooms for the 17th time. Our daughters, he corrected. Her smile could have powered the city. 5 years after the reunion, Marcus stood backstage at Jefferson Middle School's auditorium, trying not to throw up. Teacher of the Year for Travis County District. 1,500 teachers in the district, and somehow they'd chosen him. You're going to be fine. Principal Davidson adjusted Marcus's tie like he was one of the students. Just speak from the heart. That's all you ever do anyway. The auditorium was packed. Elena sat front row center with the girls, 12 years old now, on the edge of teenagerhood, but still his babies. Linda Chen beside them, Jessica Wade, Mrs. Garcia. Former students scattered throughout, adults now themselves, some with kids of their own. Please welcome this year's recipient, Marcus Chen. Applause crashed over him as he walked to the podium. The plaque was heavy in his hands, engraved with words about excellence and dedication and impact. He set it down carefully and looked at his family. Thank you. This award belongs to more than just me. It belongs to every student who trusted me with their stories, every parent who believed I could help their children. He paused, gathering courage for what came next. 5 years ago, I almost skipped my high school reunion. I was embarrassed about my life, about my old car, my worn clothes, what I didn't have. His voice carried across the silent auditorium. That night, someone tried to make me feel small, tried to humiliate me for being a teacher, for living modestly, for choosing my daughters over money. He found Elena's eyes. But someone else saw me differently. She saw past the old car and worn clothes to the person underneath. She chose me anyway. She chose my daughters. She chose our chaotic, imperfect, beautiful life. His voice strengthened. My father taught me that showing up matters more than showing off. That the richest life isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in love, in family, in moments that matter. That the work we do with our hands and hearts is worth more than any bank account. He picked up the plaque. So this award is really for her, for the woman who taught me that worth isn't measured in bank accounts or zip codes, that family isn't about biology, that the richest life is one filled with love. He looked at his daughters, Emma, Sophia, Hannah, growing up brave and kind and certain of their worth. Thank you. But the real prize is sitting in the front row. The auditorium erupted. His students, former and current, were on their feet. Elena was crying. The girls were beaming. Linda Chen looked proud enough to burst. Marcus walked off stage into Elena's arms. She held him tight while the applause continued. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered. I'm proud of us." The parking lot was mostly empty by the time they left. October evening, temperature perfect, stars starting to emerge through Austin light pollution. They walked to their SUV, 2025 Toyota Highlander, reliable and boring and exactly what a family of 5 needed. "Daddy, do you ever think about that night?" Hannah asked, walking between them. "The reunion?" "Sometimes." "Are you glad it happened?" Emma wanted to know. "Even the bad parts?" He stopped at the car, looked at all 3 daughters, his daughters, Elena's daughters, their daughters, looked at the plaque in his hand, looked at the life they'd built from humiliation and lies that became truth. Especially the bad parts. "They led me here." "To us?" Sophia asked. "To all of us," Elena answered. They climbed into the car. Marcus started the engine, pulled out of the parking lot into Austin evening traffic. The school shrank in his rearview mirror, the place where he'd taught for 15 years, where he'd impacted hundreds of lives, where he'd learned that showing up was the most important thing you could do. 5 years ago, I stood in a different parking lot, ashamed of my life, certain I wasn't enough. His voice carried over the radio's quiet hum. I was wrong. "You're the best daddy in the world," Emma said from the back seat. "I'd always been enough," he continued. "I just needed someone brave enough to see it." "Elena saw you," Hannah said matter-of-factly. "You all saw me. You 3 saw me first." They drove home through streets Marcus had traveled 1,000 times, past the apartment in East Riverside where they'd struggled, past Jefferson Middle School where he'd built his legacy, past the courthouse where they'd fought for their family, toward the house in Round Rock where love lived in every room. Elena's hand found his on the center console. Squeezed. He squeezed back. The work of building a life together was never finished. Tomorrow he'd wake up and make 3 different lunches because each daughter liked different things. He'd grade papers and answer emails and show up for students who needed someone to see them. Elena would run Heart Event Solutions, rebuilding the client list she'd sacrificed, proving that choosing love didn't mean abandoning success. The girls would navigate middle school with all its complications. Life would continue being messy and difficult and expensive. But they'd do it together. That was the only thing that mattered. They pulled into their driveway. The grass still needed mowing, the fence still needed repair, but light glowed in the windows. Home waiting for them. His father's voice echoed one last time. The bravest thing a man can do is show up. Marcus had shown up to that reunion 5 years ago, scared and ashamed. He was leaving this parking lot, grateful and whole. Sometimes the worst moments led to the best things. Sometimes being humiliated was the first step to being seen. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, the woman who saved you became the woman who stayed. They walked inside together, into warmth and light and laughter, into the life they'd built from nothing, into forever, which started right now. The door closed behind them. The porch light glowed. The house held them all, 5 people who chose each other, who showed up for each other, who proved that worth couldn't be measured in square footage or stock portfolios. Love was the only currency that mattered, and they were rich beyond measure.